Hello, hope everyone's having a good Mother's Day and ready for another installment in the series I like to call Underrated Throwers. Today we got a special treat. We got Dylan Armstrong throwing 2152. And the reason I picked him is one, he's won one or two medals at a World Champs, multiple time Olympian. I'm pretty sure still the Canadian record holder. I think was the Commonwealth World record holder at one point. I don't know. I'll list all his accomplishments in the video description. I've been doing that for all the videos. But let's take a look at this. Let me skip ahead just a little bit so you don't have to sit through that. All right. We'll watch this fast motion. Or I guess normal motion. And we'll watch that a couple times. As you can see, very fast, very explosive, very grounded. Not a long time in the air, which is a good and bad thing. All right, so let's get to it. So the reason I picked this video in particular, and not his PR 22 plus meter throw, the reason I picked this one is because I think he does this video does a very good job in sequencing about how when you don't set up the throw properly out of the back, it can lead to trouble in the front, and it's a very good just sequence of events of a lot of things that can happen. Because I have a lot of, I guess, problems with this throw compared to good things. So I just want to say off the bat, I really like Dylan Armstrong's technique. He's a very solid throw. He usually does not have these kind of problems from the videos I've seen. It's just this throw in particular. Obviously, it was still a good throw. It still went 2152. So, I mean, it's still a bomb. Okay, but now let's get into it. So, right off the bat, just nice even wind, stays very level. And right here, he kind of rises a little bit with his left hip. See how he goes up right there instead of saying level? So he kind of just turns his hip in instead of shooting his knee and his armpit out. So he's very stacked and balanced out of the back. Instead, he kind of does the old-fashioned kind of like 80s, 90s style of rotating, which is basically just get down to the ground as fast as possible and rotate the hips, as opposed to like the modern style of getting out over the left and then sprinting. So he kind of breaks a little bit at the hip. He loses a little bit of connection with it. The thing I really like about his back also is that he keeps his right foot on the ground a long time. He's already pretty turned here, and then he picks up. So he has great groin flexibility and great patience out of the back, which creates a lot of separation. But back to this. So because he doesn't get out and over, he kind of just shoots this left hip back just a little bit, which causes a rise, and then he has to dip back down to get that knee angle. But because he did that, he lost a little bit of connection, and that, oops, sorry, and because he dove his hip back, it causes him to dive with his upper body into the middle. And what I mean is, instead of like keeping his hips and his chest up, not up, but just level, he kind of has that downward angle, reminiscent of like a Randy Barnes style. And what this does is it makes him lose some tension in his right side core, But the bigger problem is he also that this makes him step early. It's also he doesn't get a good sprint out of the back. He actually really doesn't sprint at all. And I can tell that for a few reasons. One, he's not very far across the ring. This could be because of his height. I don't think he was that tall, but I'll put his height and weight down if I can find it. But I don't think he was that tall. He might have been like 6'1", 6'2", maybe. He's definitely short enough where he can sprint further across the ring. But because he didn't really sprint, I can tell that he didn't sprint for a few reasons. One, there's no phase in the throw, what we call the flight phase, where both his feet are in the air. Like when you slow down an actual sprinter, you'll notice that there's a point in their stride where they have no ground contact, and both their feet are in the air, and that's why we call it the sprint phase. And we want to sprint out of the back to avoid this, because what this does is because it makes him step early with his right into the middle, and he's cut off. Instead of having his right foot like here, it's over here. So what that's gonna do is he's gonna be crowded in the front. He's gonna shift his weight to the left. He's almost blocked off just a little bit, which means that he under rotates with the right foot, which takes distance off his throw because he didn't get a lot of linear energy into it. And it kind of threw off his timing because he landed a little bit open. But it really saves us as a really nice block. Really nice block, and stays on the shot a really long time. But what I would like to see if I was his coach, and this is just my opinion, is just sprint, because he turns his left foot all the way. So all we would have to do is actually just sprint. He would get this right foot down in the middle, and then he could work the ground longer. He could stay on his right foot, over his right foot longer, land more wrapped, and get more out of it. And but yeah, because also another thing that he does really well is he really keeps his left arm very long out of the back, actually throughout the entire throw. Another interesting thing he does, this isn't necessarily good or bad, it's just him, is he kind of loses a lot of tension in his left arm. As you can see, like, it goes like down instead of just keeping here and kind of just turning around it. Part of that could be because he's actually, no, never mind. Also, another thing I wanted to mention. So you'll see people like Christian Cantwell and stuff who are like super duper tall that don't get a big sprint. Or like Krauser. He doesn't really sprint that much. When you're like 6'6" plus in shot put, it's very hard to actually sprint out of the back. Just because you'll just not stay in the ring. You'll just fall out. So, yeah, that's just another thing to watch out for. But I don't think he's tall enough to warrant that technique. He also was coached by Bondarchuk, so he was a very old school coach. And Dylan Armstrong throws like an 80s, like almost, honestly, he throws a lot like Randy Barnes. So, like, this position right here is almost identical to how Barnes came out of the back. But yeah, I'll link all his accomplishments in the description. like I said, I mean, he threw over 22 meters. I mean, this just was not like his best technical throw. His finish really saves him. He stays on the ball longer than a lot of people do, and has a really really nice block. So, and I mean, this is a style. It can work. It can work for a lot of people still. Just just turn the hip, get it down as fast as possible. This style really works for very explosive athletes. So, if you're not very explosive, I would not recommend trying that because you won't get the payoff that you would for if you are explosive compared to if you're not. So yeah, but I hope y'all learned something, and yep, see y'all later.